Alright then, looks like we're going to have two new people featuring on the channel for the first time. That's right, in the blue corner, playing as France, weighing in at, once again, we don't have this sort of information. What are you expecting out of a budget channel, guys? It is, of course, Magic! Age of Mythology player. $5,000 earned from playing in that game. Not bad considering Age of Mythology seems very small. Meanwhile, in the red corner, it is Beastie. Now, Beastie, for those that are unfamiliar with the StarCraft community, Beastie Cutie, he is a former Terran player. I don't think he's played too recently in StarCraft. In fact, let me just double check for us. But in terms of earnings, he earned about $26,000 across his playtime. I think he got active like 2011, 2012 time. So he's been around for a while. While Magic, of course, you know, he has been around for a while in his respective scene. But of course, Age of Mythology, a lot less money in it. But to earn around $5,000 in that scene is impressive in itself, considering how small it is. That being said, BC is going to be in the Mongols. We're going to, as we said, have Magic on the French. Let's see how this one plays out, because as we have seen, these are two of the most popular factions, and both of them do have capabilities to rush and get ultra aggressive in the early game. In this specific matchup, I think it teeter-totters back and forth. Quite often, we do see France get an initial leg up when they go straight into their knights, and then we see a pivot back if the Mongol player hits into Magadai, because then the Magadai are able to chase around the knights and stop the knights from doing anything. Meanwhile, you can then arrive in the French player's base, harass his eco lines without exposing your own until the French player then shifts into a archer cav composition. And then once again, you have that pivot, right? And most games, admittedly, in the 1v1s on these type of open maps, when you look, you can see it's actually quite open, not that many places to hide, other than these choke points throughout the map through the center. Usually, the way these ones have played out, in our eyes, is France, more often than not, takes it, because they reach that timing around the archers. They then have the means to build into battering rams and go into your base. They also don't have to worry about too many static defenses because you as Mongols don't have access to walls, and they tend to snowball from there. Now, there are situations where that isn't always the case. Usually, I'm looking at maps such as Boulder Bay, where there's more choke point play, so just having a present, clear, dangerous army can be enough to deter your opponent. But this type of map, we'll have to see if it plays out in the normal flow or if there's something kind of like a curveball that BC can throw in on this one, because we have seen some funky strategies out of the Mongol players. I believe the most absurd one we've seen at the moment will, of course, be that scout rush from the other day. That being said, you can already see BC is behind. So he hasn't opted to start building into his military infrastructure yet, and he hasn't even begun teching up. So he's going to be outmatched a little bit by Magic, so we're already seeing that first power spike that France hits first, as he'll be able to start spamming the knights. Meanwhile, Beastie will finally build it, and he's going for the silver tree. This is a very greedy choice in a small open map like this, folks. Beastie still doesn't actually know where the trade is at. He'll probably find the marketplace soon as he's going in the right direction for his. But look at this info. Magic has this info too. So if Magic circles back and discovers that BC has gone for the silver tree, he's going to be able to exploit this. Because remember, the alternative is you get the Yam movement speed and you're able to kind of go a little bit more Zergy in the early game. Whereas this is more about booming in Tech 3, Tech 4. So now, once Magic gets this information, if he gets this information, we should see him double down on this idea of harassment. And believe me, he will find this information due to the fact that you will get 3-4 knights and start cycling into the Mongols' zone of influence, right? Going for their worker lines. And at some point, you will spot this silver tree being built or having been complete. In terms of completion times, Magic's still ahead here. Same amount of workers, so he's going to have about 30-second advantage to eke out one knight. So he will be ahead in that regard. And keep in mind that in the meantime, BC hasn't even built outposts. He hasn't built any racks, any stable. I think usually you're playing this situation is barracks to try and defend. But the reason why it's maybe not optimal in this situation, and he should just wait for Magadai, is because he doesn't have that Yam speed aura, that 15% booster to his troops. If you have 15% movement speed for the spears, they can somewhat close the gap and stop and prevent knights in smaller numbers from actually penetrating your eco lines. So tech up complete. Straight away in the archery. Okay, yeah, dude. Magic's opening here is, it's like succinct. It's almost like he just knows his opponent, what his opponent is doing before he sees it. Because what's going to happen here is Beastie, because he's going for the Silver Tree, he should go Magadai. He almost indefinitely will go Magadai. And with this type of opening, in terms of your military presence, like, otherwise you're racks, right? So there's the archery range. He'll go straight into Magadai, and then Magic's already going to be countering the Magadai because he's already producing knights plus the archers, which means the knights will be protected and cannot be pursued by the Magadai. Now, keep in mind, archers are incredibly good traits against Magadai because for every Magadai, you get 3 archers out. Not in terms of production rates, of course. It's 15 seconds compared to the 30. But look at that. 120 food, 40 gold. Meanwhile, what do you need over here? Food and wood. You know what else makes this really good? It's an amazing balance for France because then they aren't, like, blending their eco in a really weird way. They're not double dipping in the gold mine to try and find a way to bring out these units, right? Like if they went for arbors, which obviously you're going to do at Castle, but as an example, right? So what makes France so optimal in Feudal Age is that they have food and gold for the knights, and then they have food and wood for their archers. So there's never this heavy priority. It's quite a balanced priority. And it also, by having this balanced priority in terms of where you're gathering resources, it also gives you flexibility in what you transition into later, while something like the Mongols will be heavy into food and gold, even though it's getting a decent amount of wood. You can see, like, right, you got 4 people here compared to the 7 here, and then he's going to have 5 on gold. So you kind of see that split already. And you see the Magadai coming out. So the knight is going to get harassed pretty heavily. In fact, this one, okay, he's not going to chase it. The reason he's not chasing, by the way, is because there's always a chance that Magic gets value out of cycle charging out of the Stealth Forest, so you don't want to give him that advantage, because remember, when cavalry are charging, they do move a little bit quicker. The scouts forward with the archer and the knights will spot out this aggressive Gur to try and secure the center deer. And I don't think he can do anything with this small of an army, not with the outpost there. It's just going to be awkward. He's looking for exposed eco, and I don't know if he's going to find it. He might get some hits in here. Yeah, he is. Oh, no. Beastie's not quick enough here. He's going to lose. Was that 2 or 1? I think that was 1, and almost the second one gets dropped there. And then, of course, the knights can just back off. And I think Chivalry, this is the point after this night, you probably research Chivalry, and you can still get your value. I say that. Maybe not if this happens. It looks like he's going to lose one of these Royal Knights. So, nice chase down by Beastie there, just eliminating some of Magic's investment for free. This move by Magic is premature. You shouldn't be trying to burn down the outpost at this stage. And I think if he keeps cycling back in every 10 seconds, then Beastie's now going to react. He needs to, if anything, be patient, wait a moment, for Beastie to go look at something else, anywhere else on the map, and then he can strike. That being said, Stealth Forest being used, and Vision Factor, yeah, he sees him. Remember, he's got Outpost here, so he'll see him just about running out of the Stealth Forest every time. But the Magadai's on the high ground. If you just misstep his Magic, you could lose multiple troops. But I like this move instead coming out of Beastie. He says, okay, any eco harassment you can do, I can do better. Because even if you have got Outpost down, I guarantee that you stacked more people on these eco lines compared to the 5 maximum that I put on this guy. That being said, with the Knights and the Scouts, he does move in. We'll be able to clean up this Outpost before any serious harassment comes the way of the French player. And you can already see the Magadai trying to wrap around, but it becomes awkward due to this outpost. Remember, these are light armored cavalry. 85 health as well. For comparison's sake, 70 health on the archer. So you start to see what I mean about archers being such a better value unit compared to Magadai. Magadai are very situational, like you have to find the way of utilizing them. And usually it involves not being shot at by towers and town centers, as we're seeing. So expansion burn. Interesting he didn't burn out this Gur. I think he just wants to go straight for the eco lines instead. That's his priority here. But of course, getting rid of this Gur is quite valuable because the Gurs cost 100 wood for the Mongols. And although he doesn't realize it, we know that BC's fairly wood capped at this point. He only has 2 people working on the wood line. And he has gone for the stable now, so he's trying to diversify a little bit, get into the early horsemen to try and counter out the knights a little bit. Look at the harass on this eco. He'll be out. Okay, he didn't actually micro that, so he doesn't snipe out any of the villies. And remember, still no chivalry. But he has cut off the gold supply now for Beastie. And this means they can burn down the outpost. This is a freebie. Yeah, so they're moving the Gur over here. So nicely played by Beastie to not even try and contest this, because the moment you abandon the outpost, you're surrendering this. All the while, Beastie losing one of his Magadai in the base. He was trying to harass the eco lines. I don't think he got too much value, though. Magic seems to have been pretty on point so far, and we can see that in terms of his eco, up at 35, compared to just 24. 24 for Beastie. And do you want to know why that is, folks? It's not just the harassment factor, it's also the way he had to shift his eco because he needed enough food to spam out Magadai, which means that he probably wasn't producing villages 100% of the time here. That being said, don't get me wrong, there is a difference that comes out of just playing France, right? France does produce these villages quicker, remember, 17 compared to the 20 seconds. But that difference already seems like, to me, it must be somewhat impacted by an eco cutoff. I could be wrong on this, but I definitely feel like at the 10-minute mark, the difference shouldn't be 12. Then again, we need to give credit where credit is due, right? He did snipe 5 of those villages, so I guess it is feasible with that 17 versus 20-second production time. And the Magadai spam's good. Remember, Chivalry was never taken, right? No, he didn't even bother. But he has found value out of these initial Knights, and he's forced BC to double down on the Magadai. And this is good info gathering at the same time from Magic's perspective, because what he now knows is that BC doesn't have food. He has to have burnt practically everything he's gathered so far to have this many Magadai up. What he doesn't realize, however, is BC is plowing on through the gold right now. So BC can actually hit the numbers he requires and then switch over to full food production to then hit up into a tech-free timing, which right now will not be matched by Magic. Magic is full in on this right now, if you just look at it. Yeah. I was about to say, there's got to be another unit producing build in here. He went for a second archery range, so looking for that Zerg factor out the range boys here. And he could hit it. Also, if you have a defensive force here, you could easily clean up these Magadai, and remember how costly an investment they are. Speaking of cleaning them up, I'm pretty sure if anyone just breathes on this Magadai right now, he dies. But it's going to be tough to get at him. Also, in terms of the way the formation is done right now, the exposed first 2 Magadai are pretty healthy, so you should get some value volleys off before you lose these 2 super weak ones. But early scouting vision, I love the outpost placements from Magic. He's just not exposing any of his eco lines. And he's also giving himself a treacle effect, so he can move on to the next berry bush, and he's like, look, he's already set up here, right, with outposts. Which, will he spot this? Magic is busy engaging the eco of his opponent. So he will now react, and he gets Garrison just in time, so no casualties here, and he does move the archers across to cover it. Does need to give a new role to these villies over here, though, as they're done with this berry bush. You could move them out here. I'm just not sure if he wants to. The reason being, you could instead switch over to farms and have safety, right? Yeah, there it is. I much prefer this play, guys. Too often I see people run like 10 villages out to a single outpost guarded mill in the middle of nowhere, and then they lose half of the villages, even if they defend the harassment, right? Even if they garrison, because it's just a single outpost. Go ahead, being sniped. That's going to be 100 wood just wasted for BC. He can't get that out of there. I just love the idea that he's been on fire. It's kind of like our Wild West wagon's been set on fire by the brigands situation. I love it. The outlaws. Arrows fired. 1 Magadai sniped. And he will cycle off the Royal Knight before it's complete waste. I like how the the villager, Timmy the villager here, has just gone around the establishment. He's gotten all these drunken buddies who are actually archers in their daytime jobs to gather around him. He's like, right, we go get him. We light these Freks on fire, right? They don't get away. Too bad. They're already out. Magadai move way too fast. 1.62. So let's escape with Magadai. How's BC's economy looking? His food is still burnt. But this is where it gets fixed, right? Look how many patches he's got now. So he's prepping to get to a food boom point. And then, meanwhile, if we look at Magic, like, it's just spending everything. Yeah. What's happening right now is he's gathering all this wheat up. He's setting fire to it and waving it above his head while singing Kumbaya, hoping that this army will be big enough. So really, it's kind of pivoting where Magic is on just trying to shut out the game completely right now. And you can see with this archer count, it's feasible. Because while you have the mobility on the Mongol player here with the Magadai army, the thing that the Magadai suck at is defending. If you get stuck in your own base, what do Magadai do here, right? They have inferior range, they're 1.5 tile range shorter, and yes, you can run away quicker, but when you're static buildings, when your base is exposed, running away doesn't do anything for you. They're charging forward into the archers now. You could turn on him here. You could actually wipe out the horsemen and some of the Magadai. He does exactly that. Nice volleys get 2 of the horses. He did lose about 4 of his archers, maybe 5. That's actually a worthwhile trade, though. Remember the economical cost of these, right? The horsemen cost 100 food. The Magadai cost a hefty 120. And I feel like BC is just being outproduced here. I don't know where his answer is going to come at this point. Like, you could try to tech up, but you're forced to constantly invest. If anything, you need something to counter these archers, something that you don't really have. I wouldn't mind seeing him just go static archers. I think this Magadai is good, but this is your elite task force, right? You can use this for a flanking maneuver, build archers, catch your opponent off guard, and then when he retreats, your Magadai wrap. But right now, if you keep trying to build into these more expensive Magadai, I think you're going to lose the fight. Almost every time. And Chivalry now research. So Magic is going to reach a stage where he'll start to try and cycle charge under this TC. It can be risky. Just because a 20 TC might even snipe a knight if you're not quick to react. But this is the play. Baron Rams. It's ramming time, baby. And Magadite, they go on the skirmishes again. They do see the exposed tree line, and he gets through. They cut through this, so they're going to get some value here. Like to try and just charge force them through into choke points, but not enough damage done. Instead, the Royal Knight's going to fall. He did at least garrison the outpost, so might kill 1 or 2 of these off. But he's interrupted the full wood line. And this is a critical detail, by the way. QT, like, BC had to be aware that there was probably battering rams being built, right? But because he prevented the gathering of so much wood there from, like, 15 villagers, there's not going to be second battering ram. So it's just 1. And that 1 will be sniped. So BC will take some damage to his eco as he loses 4, maybe 5 villagers here. But he gets rid of the battering ram. And now he's prevented the siege because, remember, Magic isn't harvesting on the wood line right now. And there's not much left of this wood line either. So he has to find value. Magadite in again. Going deeper. Knight's going to try and funnel them through. They are going to start falling quickly, though. These outposts are getting them so low. They are sniping some of these villies, but it's so pricey. Remember, yeah, you snipe 1 for 50, but it's costing you 120. And while usually it's a good trade because there's only one building these villages, in this type of game, food is becoming the preventative measurement for both sides, right? It's the factor that's going to decide this game, which is why Magic is starting to hoard it. He is starting to just throw out gold, though, at this stage. And he'll finally try and fix that by getting some more people across the gold. But that's the only reason he doesn't have that much. His income per minute, like, he's been primarily focusing on the wood because he wants these rams and he wants to end it. And that's why he's building another one. Question is, can he protect it well enough to get in the base this time? He actually brought this... Okay, so the Knights... If they're back here, this does open up a potential move in the center with the Horseman. So Magic needs to be careful not to split his armies too much. Otherwise, the Horseman will jump him and trade fairly well. Yeah, there's a lot of archers. The Horseman will probably die. But if they get rid of, say, 20 of your archers in this situation and the Magadai come back to base, your army's going to get wiped. Speaking of those Magadai, just once again frustrating the eco of Magic. But really... This is just signaling to Magic. It's saying, okay, BC, your Magadai aren't here. And he's going to force a charge out from the Horseman towards the Archers. They're going to turn around towards the battering ram, but they don't do anything. He just loses 2 of them for nothing. I think he A-clicked, but he didn't mean to do that. And now look at this. There's too many Archers too close, so he has to back up the villages. He can't even rush out for this. He's trying to run the Magadai across, but look at the casualties. They're running straight through the French base and straight under the influence of the outposts. So he's going to lose 1, maybe 2 more of these. And by the time you get back, you're going to maybe have 6 Magadai left. And the battering ram, even if you don't take down the TC, this is the crippling factor. BC is going to become limited on the food front. And that is becoming obvious to Magic, which is why he's trying to just choke him out here, noticing that BC hasn't been expanding his Magadai line, meaning he must be saving up for something, namely a tech up. And there it is. He baits him in. The villagers chased in the Knights. They're going to surround them. And the Phillies are still chasing it. And that's going to be practically all of BC's eco gone in the blink of an eye. And yes, the Magadai get back to base in time for the main fight, but the problem is there's not really anything left to defend here anymore. Oh no, Magic with the superior micro just baits Beastie into an unwinnable situation. And that moment right there, that 2-second difference between your villagers running that far out gave the time needed for the Knights to surround, gave the time needed to hit the eco as well as the military and hit yourself a home run and a win over BCQT. He even starts building the BM siege tower. Magic right now just said, GG, bro. shout it out, hit the surrender, wave that white flag. I know I'm playing France, but we're not doing it in this time in the timeline, all right? This ain't World War II. This is feudal age, baby. This is King of France. What is this siege tower even doing? It's a PM siege tower. What more explanation does it need?